listening to the EdTech podcast live at Bett. Over the course of the day, we're sitting down with people from across education and technology, sharing stories, insights, and perspectives from one of the biggest moments in the global EdTech calendar. Hello, Andrew, and welcome to the EdTech podcast. You are from the Literacy Trust. It is so delightful to have you on the podcast. I'm really excited to be able to chat to you about what is happening in literacy.
Thanks, Philippa. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be joining you.
So this week at Bett, you were just mentioning off air that you were on stage yesterday. So what were you talking about?
Yes, so yesterday I was on stage talking specifically about the National Year of Reading, which has started, launched last week in England, this week in Scotland, in Northern Ireland in a couple of weeks, and Wales soon after, which is going to be a national campaign, behaviour change campaign, really getting everybody across the country to rethink their relationship to reading and to rediscover their reader identities, because this came out of research that we've been doing for the last 20 years even, into child reading habits. And we run the biggest child literacy survey in the world, and 17,000 children responded last
Incredible.
year. Yeah, it's been kind of bobbling along for a few years about children's enjoyment of reading and whether they like reading or not. But we saw in 2024 a huge decline in children's interest in reading. And it dropped down to only 1 in 3 children saying that they like reading, and only 1 in 5 children saying that they read every day. And obviously that's absolutely shocked us. And shocked all the way up to government and across the country. So we're really pleased that we've now got the backing of the Department for Education and across government, and so many great partners in the corporate world, to other charities, backing this campaign now to really make a difference to children's lives in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just had a weird thought around the whole idea that when books first came out, people thought that it would be the decline of the world, didn't they?
Exactly. Whenever new tech comes along, we always panic and wonder how we're going to deal with this in the future. And so I think we're in that place now slightly with our relationship to screens and text. And there is obviously now surveys and what we've looked at, that a lot of evidence that the big decline in children's enjoyment in reading happens about age 11, which obviously there's some things around the move to secondary school, lots of social changes, emotional changes, child development changes, but also it's a time when lots of children get their first phone. And so we do need to think about this relationship to tech. And we're not anti-tech, and we think actually reading on screen can be beneficial in many circumstances, particularly for children who are disengaged from reading altogether. But we also know that phones can be a massive distraction. I mean, it's the same for us as adults as it is for children as well. So we just need to help people to rediscover that reader identity and that relationship to books and to text in whatever format that might be.
That's incredible. I have a 15 and an 11-year-old, and when my 15-year-old was about 11 or 12, didn't have a phone, but just became incredibly disengaged from reading. Turns out he doesn't like anything that's made up, and he doesn't like anything unless it's basically a true life story. Okay. But actually at his age, it was really hard to find things that were suitable, but also maybe biographical, etc. And so that whole persona and that reading identity, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's the point of the campaign really, is it's less about, we're not pushing books for the campaign. It's not National Year of Books. The point of the Go All In campaign is to help people rediscover their passions and their interests, like your son did, and then to be able to explore that through text. So they're actually thinking, right, if you like sport, reading match reports is fine. Yeah. And actually maybe that's a way in, to down the line reading Fever Pitch or something like that. Or if you like music, reading song lyrics is fine. Yeah. And then you might actually then start exploring books about musicians or different themes that come through the music as well. So that's what we know from our research as well, actually works. Because children aren't rejecting reading per se, they're rejecting relevance. Yeah. Because sometimes the books that we suggest that they read, or particularly in school, sometimes require them to read, aren't things that inspire them. They don't touch into their motivations and their passions. So we want children and everybody to be reconnecting with what motivates them, and to think about exploring that further through text and books.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about it then. So it's launched. What are people doing? What are you asking everybody to kind of take part in? What's the challenge? What's the kind of focus for the 12 months?
So it's going to be everywhere, hopefully. So we launched last week in England at the Arsenal Stadium with Bridget Phillipson, Secretary of State for Education. I got to meet Gunnosaurus, which I was very happy about. So we're having a big national campaign running throughout the year. So you'll see it on billboards, you'll see it in cinema, on television, just reminding people about this, about reconnecting with their passions and exploring them more deeply. So it'll be a national behaviour change campaign. And this is targeted at everybody, really, because it's really important that us as adults also rediscover our reader identities, because actually we know from research from the Book Trust that only half of adults read every day now as well. And it's really important both for us as adults, but also for us to model our behaviours to the children as well. I mean, I know Director of Education, National Literacy Trust, I've got 3 English degrees. I used to be an English teacher, and I don't read every day. And when I do, it's not visible to my children. So I need to think about actually visibly reading in front of them and modelling the behaviours I expect for them. So there'll be this big national campaign going on, but then we'll be activating that through a collective social impact program underneath that, which will be worth in communities, particularly in public libraries. So we're looking to get 1 million new library card sign-ups over the course of the year, actively use library card sign-ups as well, not just popped in a kitchen drawer. We're also looking for 100,000 reading volunteers across the country to then go and read with children wherever they may be, to actually encourage them and motivate them through. And there'll be lots of community events going on in parks, in community centres across the country all year. And then the other plank of that I'm responsible for is the work we're going to be doing with schools and early years settings, because obviously that plays such an important part, both in children's lives, but also in their relationship to reading and to books as well. So over the course of the year, we're going to be having a whole programme of activity that's going on directly for schools and nurseries. And that'll be focusing on big national events. So every half term, we're going to have a broadcast event for every school in the country to be able to access, starting National Storytelling Week in February and then in World Book Day in March, and each point throughout the year. There'll be a whole series of CPD events, webinars, resources, local events that people can come to if they want to find out more about how they can embed a culture of reading in their schools or in their nurseries as well. And we'll be having competitions, quizzes and activities for children to take part in as well, so they can be motivated to engage in this, to see the art of the possible. And we'll be doing all this as a core programme, but also there'll be lots and lots of partners across the charity sectors as well, providing extra support for schools and settings as well. So there'll be lots of things for them to tap into, whatever their needs and their challenges are.
Like an incredibly busy year. It sounds so exciting. I mean, one of my favourite places to take my children especially when they were very little and toddlers, was the library. And it's always been somewhere that even when I come back to the UK, I find a library to go and work in. Because they're great places to just to be able to just switch off and kind of tune into what you need to do and sit and do that. And that's such an incredible kind of ambition as well, to get so many more people into those libraries. They're very community driven hubs as well.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important, because they're not just quiet reading spaces anymore. It's actually a social reading space where you can go and talk to a librarian and find out more, particularly if you are pursuing your passion. You can go and ask and get advice and guidance, get recommendations on books you might want to read. And also our libraries now are fantastic places. Don't just have books, they have audio books, they have comics, they have ebooks as well. So all different formats that support children's reading as well through that. So I know they're wonderful spaces. So we just need to get more people going to them.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And so there's that crux age that you mentioned, 11. Like, what specifically is happening for those children? I mean, when you were talking then and obviously getting people reading and things like that, it reminded me very much of the BBC when they get famous people who are very out of place when you're an adult listening to them reading a bedtime story. And it's quite funny because you kind of picture in them this crazy movie or something, and they're reading your child a story. But what are we doing to engage those middle age children?
Exactly. So the various things we're doing. So first of all, obviously working directly with the school sector. So thinking, and particularly for secondary schools, where there is so much pressure both on the school and on the child to focus on the exam results and the things they're held accountable for, just to reconnect them a bit with that reading experience, because we know, and there's a solid evidence base to this, that actually choosing to reading for pleasure, has a really strong effect on children's educational outcomes. Because the more you read, the better you get at it. The more you gain knowledge and vocabulary. But actually that choice, what we call volitional reading of your own volition, is the most important bit, because it gives you curiosity and self-regulation and a love of learning. So actually, if we can remind schools of this and actually get them to rethink, actually, reading for pleasure is an important part of our exam curriculum, because it gets children on that path and it gets them learning and it gets them engaged. So actually to rethink in that way. The other things we're obviously going to be doing is looking for role models, because we know this is what children, particularly of that age, really respond to. So both in their communities, so people that they know who they look up to, but also in our national campaign as well, we're going to be working with sports stars, we're going to be working with pop stars, we're going to be working with actors and celebrities as well. Because again, the modelling of their behaviours is what children look up to. And obviously it's not my particular world, but my children is social media influencers and people like that. I don't understand any of it, so I can't really talk about much of that. But again, these people, again, who children look up to. So how can we get them engaged and supporting and showing that they like reading, or they have passions that they follow through as well?
And actually often they absolutely are incredibly passionate about things like that. You know, to slightly take it off tangent, I remember there was a very famous, I want to say Millie Bobby Brown or somebody like that, and I apologise if I get this wrong, but she's into crocheting or knitting. And all of a sudden there was this huge big thing around that, because people thought, oh, well, if she's doing it, it must be okay to do it. And there is almost sometimes just that breaking down of, just because I don't tell you because of my job that I love reading, actually it's a really big part of, especially actors.
Exactly. And I mean, we've got people like Leah Williamson signed up to support the campaign and things like that. So really like high-level sports stars, celebrities, musicians who are really going to be bringing in and helping children to see what they can do and how much actually they're celebrities and they're heroes for doing these things as well.
That's incredible. And what can parents do? What can we do as parents in education? You mentioned role modelling, but what else? What other things can we kind of support our children to do?
I think obviously, first of all, it is just visibly read yourself. And then the next step is obviously just to talk about this with your child and actually ask your child what you're interested in, recommend things to them. So think about actually how you can engage in conversation about the characters, about the setting, about the themes of the things that you're reading as well. And just have that as part of your daily conversation with your child, really.
Yeah.
Just to show again that you're doing this, but also just to start nudging them towards certain texts and things like that. My son is a huge gamer.
Yeah.
And he loves basically that rather than reading. But there are things in sometimes the games that he's playing. So he particularly likes a game called Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a cowboy game. So I was able to recommend him books and things that might pursue that theme further again. So not necessarily books about gaming, books about the themes that are coming through that he then has a passion for and interest in from that format as well. So about reconnecting sometimes and connecting those dots for children and really helping them see that through. I think the other thing, and it comes back to such as on the screen conversation we were having, it was about if you see your child listening to an audiobook or reading an ebook or reading a comic, it's just to validate that as well and not say it has to be this 100-year-old book that I've got on the shelf with leather bound. It can sometimes be different formats and that's okay. It's better than not reading at all. And actually there's lots of value in all of those formats in of themselves, as well as getting children back on that reader identity pathway again.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we're living in the Middle East, we found it very hard to access a lot of books. And actually, interestingly, when we did, there's a huge array now of bookshops there. It's just brilliant. But when we first moved over, and it was that difference between going to the library all the time and then actually not really having a lot of access at all. But Kindle became a really big part of what we did. And that was so important to us to be able to allow that consumption. And for my youngest son, I honestly described him as someone who would eat a book because they would just go so quickly. And I just, you're keeping up with that as well. And then not kind of putting them in a position of going, you can't have another book until actually kind of, being able to have that access digitally is okay.
Exactly. And then they have that choice, opens up that access to that choice. And they can then read around. Like you said, they might not finish a book, but they might dip into one and then find another one that they want to go to. And sometimes those digital formats can be really helpful in providing that access and those choices.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. I think, and also that opens doors a lot for schools as well, because obviously we now live in a world where many of our schools have a huge international cohort of children. And so actually lots of different languages, but we're also trying to encourage that in terms of reading, I assume.
Completely. I mean, we want all children in the country to be engaging in reading, regardless of their background, regardless of any complex needs that they might have at all. So we do look to, as much as possible, to provide anything or recommend things in various different formats, as well as when we provide early years resources, we provide them in a multitude of languages as well. And we want to support our schools to be able to work that through, because many schools you'll have 30 different languages spoken in one class. So how we can support schools to access books in different formats and different languages, whether that's through the public library or through accesses in there locally as well.
That's incredible. Can I ask you, when you've been at Bett the last few days, is there anything literacy driven, anything digital that you've seen that's been really of interest?
I think it's just mainly just talking to everybody here, because I think that was why it was so great when I spoke on the main stage yesterday, and we had not quite, but nearly a packed out house. And I think sometimes, even with all the tech stuff and the robots all around here, which are incredible, but at the same time bringing things back to reading, and that gives just human element and reconnecting people with education and why they became educators in the first place is really important. I think people respond really well to that. And there are lots of different tech options and different formats that we can think through, which are all great. But actually, this comes back to human communication, empathy, and understanding.
And we know very much from research that literacy is the key to be able to unlock the future for everybody.
Exactly. I mean, it unlocks the whole curriculum. If you can't read, it becomes much more difficult to access any content across anything. But also, we've done lots of research recently, both into screen access, digital access, but also into AI as well. And actually, it's really clear that in an AI-driven world or an AI-first world, literacy skills are more important rather than less important, because you need to be able to enter accurate prompts into an AI bot. You then need to be able to edit and determine whether what the responses that it gives you are accurate, fluent, and actually providing you with truth and what you might need. So you need to be able to write really accurately. You need to be able to read even more accurately when you're dealing with AI than you would do otherwise.
Yeah, it's so so vital. We were talking about media literacy yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that is so important to be able to have that discerning understanding of what the context of something might mean, what it's trying to achieve, whether it's real, whether it's not. I mean, there are so many nuances to language.
Yeah.
And I think, as you say, like reading is just such a huge part of that.
Media literacy or digital literacy, what do you want to call it, is basically just literacy.
Yes.
It is these core skills of reading, writing, speaking and listening, but you're just deploying them in different mediums. Yeah. So it just reinforces that this becomes even more important in a digital first world.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the EdTech podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Andrew. This episode is brought to you by Edmentum, a leading edtech provider bringing global, future-ready learning to schools in more than 100 countries worldwide. I'm fortunate enough to have long-time familiarity with Edmentum, their commitment to keeping pace with the needs of today's students and then delivering innovative solutions that both accelerate academic achievement across K through 12 and enhance university and career readiness for all learners truly sets them apart. Backed by the highest caliber of research, Edmentum's AI-driven assessment, personalized curricula, and virtual instruction give the tools to prepare students for a successful future. Visit edmentum.com to learn more about Edmentum's comprehensive solutions and how they can help you address your goals. So, welcome, Connor, to the EdTech podcast. Please introduce yourself to our international audience. Tell us a little bit about Edmentum.
Yeah, no, of course. So my name is Connor Gaitley. I'm the SVP and the General Manager for Edmentum's international business. And what Edmentum does is we kind of lead the innovation in learning acceleration. So we're very key to kind of meet students where they are and then go, how do we help them achieve their potential? And that's through supporting the teachers and the pupils in the classroom with the way that we interact with our solutions, but also having all of the kind of the courseware there. So we make their educational journey, really important, and we get to overcome some of the challenges that they have. And then a big focus for me is that kind of career connected learning. Schools have to develop the pupils to give them a strong vision of where they're going to go to. And the more that we can interact with students, show them those kind of learning pathways, show them what they need to do to be successful, means that we'll have much more engaged learners at an early stage. So no, I'm very proud that Edmentum is really focusing on how do we enable the pupils to achieve their potential, but really focusing on skills. As everything is changing, that's the key thing now.
Yeah, it really is. It's the bit that's going to unlock the doors, isn't it? And I love that, meeting them where they are. Like from a global perspective, that is a big job, right?
It is. And we're already impacting the lives of over 5 million students. We're operating in over 100 countries and we want to do more. The ambition of the business is to impact 10 million students. So I've got a long way to go with what we're doing, but we're well on the way and it's going to be a very exciting journey.
Amazing. And so tell us a little bit then about that. So how do we meet students where they are? What sorts of things is Edmentum putting in place? How does the platform work to be able to do that?
Yeah, no, so we very much look at that kind of the diagnostic, because in terms of the teachers now, they're in the classroom, they've got potentially 20, 30, 40 pupils in the classroom. They can't be expected to understand exactly where each pupil is. But, so by being able to do a diagnostic, that they can really use as that evidence. And then that can develop a personalized learning journey for those pupils. So you can see where they are. You're able to group certain children together so they can help each other. You can stretch. Then you're able to focus. The learning path is personalized to that student. So when they go into we want to encourage them to what they're doing. So we'll ask them the questions. If they get it wrong, we'll drop a level and then we'll gradually build their confidence up to go back. And if they repeatedly get something wrong, the teacher will get the information so they can spend some time with that pupil. It really allows us to go, work on the top performers, work on the people in the middle, and also the people that need the support at the bottom. And it gives them confidence. And that's what it's all about, that real kind of confidence. And then with all of the, the Lexiles, with all of the kind of the assessments, you really see where those pupils are. And we're seeing, 2 to 3 times improvement by working in our platform for each subject, 40 minutes a week, doing the as it's working through. And it becomes that gamification. We have people using, charts on the wall, posters, who's being successful. So it's really, really engaging. And it's giving wonderful insights to the parents and the teachers to really make those interventions count. And then when you see all of the evidence and the impact reports that we're giving to schools, there is that kind of good, gosh, students are developing 2 to 3 times faster by engaging in these platforms. And that makes the teacher's job more fulfilling, makes the pupil more fulfilling, just makes them very excited doing.
And I love that, because I often have reflected on the fact that we can often be sitting in front of 28 to 34 children, if at a minimum, in our classrooms, and to understand every single one of them, and maybe understand why that one child isn't quite grasping a certain concept. We know that building blocks are so vital, and if there's one missing, the tower can fall down, and that, as you said about confidence, is really important for us.
No, totally. And I look at this personally as well, because I've got 3 children. They are all extremely different learners. I've got one that wants to go and do medicine. I really hope she gets her dream. She's such a focused learner and really kind of goes and finds, is curious and everything like that. And then I have the sports mad 14-year-old who's kind of going, school's my social life. And you do see the missing some of those building blocks. And that's where this kind of solutions really help kind of overcome that, because the children, it just keeps reinforcing what they're good at, getting them moving forward and going. So whichever type of learner that we've got out there, it supports them all and massively makes the potential unlimited.
Absolutely. And then also on the flip side of that, empowers the teacher.
Yes. And when I've gone in, over the last, coming up to a year now, I've gone in and out of a number of school settings and seeing people using it. And that's, when you see the teachers coming to you and kind of going, this is how I'm applying it in my classroom. It's not that fear of technology, because we're all worried about screen time, and you have people kind of pushing back on that. But if you're actually kind of going, no, this is really, it's screen wise. Yeah. It really is that kind of, they're interacting, which is going to make a difference to what the teacher can be planning the lesson in the front. We can be doing the follow-up work within our solutions, etc. And it really is important.
Yeah.
Impact.
And you're right there. It isn't screen time. It's active learning.
Exactly.
It's students engaging in something, not for 6-7 hours in a day. It's them engaging in something that is relevant to what they're learning in the classroom. It's relevant to them being able to proceed to the next step of their journey.
Yeah, no, it is. And it really complements the school and the way that the school wants to work. We've had a number of people getting in touch with us over the last month, where when we're looking in, particularly in the UAE, where the prayer time has come forward, it's very much kind of going, well, we don't want to lose the school and lesson time. So how do we support and supplement that so they could potentially use the solutions to make the most of the school time that's available to the pupils? And we're hearing all of those kind of conversations to go, you tell us how you're wanting to work in the school, and we'll meet the school and the pupil where they are to make sure everyone's getting the learning outcomes and progress that they want.
That's incredible. You mentioned as well, having those skills for the future around, career readiness. How are you developing systems around that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we made a very exciting acquisition earlier in the year with Major Clarity. And that is, when you talk about meeting the children where they are, we look at all of these schools when they're trying to go to children, right? Where do you want to go with your career? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Anyone that's doing that job in schools are overrun by the pupils. They cannot spend enough time talking to them, supporting them. And also quite often the student gets disengaged. I think when I went through my careers, I was told, yes, you maybe want to become a farmer. It may not be the right thing for you, but I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Whereas when we look at Major Clarity, pupils go in, they do an assessment of their learning style, what their interests are, and then they're able to explore within the platform multitudes of different careers. Yeah. And they're able to kind of see what the future could hold. And what we're going to be also adding into that product is being able to see live videos of somebody. How did you, Philippa, how did you get here for your job? Yeah. And then you can explain what was important in your journey, what you were looking at. So it makes it very much to the student. They're looking and going, now I see why that subject's important. Now I see why this is important. And we're seeing that by students investing and kind of really investigating their careers at an earlier stage, makes their journey and where they go much more effective. Yeah. And that kind of real career readiness, and then career connected learning, because not everyone's going to go to university. That kind of isn't happening anymore. There's a number of conversations around the dinner table going, well, what am I going to do? And this is where, from Edmentum with Major Clarity, with our CTE courses, we're really jumping into that into that problem area to give the solution to all of schools and the pupils to go, right, where do you want to take your career? Right, let's investigate. Let's see where you can go. Let's see what you'd have to do. The great things that we've seen is you've had some students coming in and going, I want to do this. And they get fixated on that. But then by the time they've explored the system, it starts challenging them. It kind of goes, well, have you thought that if you actually did this and did these micro-credentials, did these courses, you would actually open up a whole other window where the earning potential is significantly greater. And then it will go, you could get there by either going to university or you could get there via using career-connected learning, apprenticeship, etc. And what's really exciting about the platform is local employers can get involved. Like I know from in the UK, dealing with a lot of the multi-academy trusts, one of the biggest problems is that employability, after school. So when you're using the Major Clarity platform, the students can be interacting with it, doing micro-credentialing, showing their interests in what their courses are. But the schools can engage the employers around them to be in the platform, surfacing opportunities, training, all of that side of things that they're doing. So the pupils are really starting to connect their learning to where they may go, and they can see where an apprenticeship is on offer. The potential employer can then, it almost becomes their recruitment process. They can see, oh, this student has engaged in this, and this. I can see that they're really interested in this engineering, in this. It just really pulls the whole ecosystem so much closer together. So having that kind of careers platform where students can take control on where they're going to go, and then the career counsellors in the school can see what the child is interacting with, they can add so much more value, because that's what parents want now. With all the pupils going into school, no, I don't think, like I mentioned my 3 children, I'm not saying to all of them, go to university, no. Like I did. It's going, what is your path? And this allows them to take control and see where they're going. And then parents can see, teachers can see, and you can have honest conversations about careers that people may not have thought of. Because, like I say, you look at the AI what impact that's having. We don't know what the jobs of the future are going to be. We've got an idea. But having all of those skills, so we go, right, focus on the skills, micro-credentialing, where you want to get to, and then this is where you can apply your interests and your skills. I think we'll end up with much more engaged learners. And that's what I'm looking at my 15-year-old boy, sports mad, who just wants to go anything to do with hockey, anything to do with hockey. He can explore and go, if that's what your interests are, these are all the careers that are open to you. And I've actually got him to use the system. And he's come back to me and gone, I could do this. I could do that. I could do that. And suddenly, it's really, you just see the cogs falling and giving children the ability to own their agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really
on their
important.
future. I think there's a few things that you've pulled out there. So amazing micro-credentialing. That is phenomenal, because that is really going to be the future of how we continue to iterate within our whole life, right? With our development and moving forwards, and actually having that little thing to say, these are skills I've got. This is something I've learned. This is how I can do that. And that ability to link those to future jobs. From, you were saying about, your careers guidance, wanting to be in agriculture, be a farmer. I had a similar conversation. I think we had maybe a 10-minute conversation in our school because of capacity-wise when I was there, which was, what do you want to do? Oh, no, I don't think you should do that. Your grades don't say that you'd be very good at that. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. And the line has been drawn. But what this is enabling is that conversation around, well, actually throughout your focus, these are things that we've seen that you're really good at, you're really successful at, or a little bit more on this, and actually you would have these doors open to you. And that playing field of, as you mentioned, it's not just university, and there is no stigma around whether you do an apprenticeship or whether you do this. It's actually about, what would you like to spend your life doing?
Yeah. And when you mention about doors, that's where I kind of talk to my children, and when I go into schools, we don't want any pupil to close off a door. It is lifelong learners now. And that's where this platform, children are able to constantly go involved, constantly explore different areas as they change their mind and go, oh, maybe this, maybe that. And you wanted to give them the confidence to go, okay, well, if you've got wonderful grades, better than you thought you were going to get, actually, there could be a whole lot of other careers open to you. So come back, explore, investigate. It's that whole thing about doors. We don't want any doors closed off to anyone. No. But if they've got an idea of where they want to go, we want to be able to go, well, look, we can help you with our courseware, the CTE courses, career-connected learning, the micro-credentialing, to go wherever you want to go in your future career. We're going to be there to put you in the best possible place and accelerate it. Whether that's an academic approach or whether it's more of a vocational approach. But we don't want to close any doors off.
No.
And we just want to really support and make people engaged. Because I think there's too many people where there's that kind of absenteeism and lack of engagement at scarily early ages in our children. And if we can find other ways to really empower the teacher to kind of go, I've got your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
This is where you can learn your learning styles. This is where you can learn a bit more about your personality. These are the types of roles that would fit both of those, and have that honest conversation with data, efficacy, with parents, with students. It really puts them in the best possible place.
And again, I think the other part of that is being understood by others. So a student feeling like this information is now helping my teacher understand the things that I like, the things that I could potentially do, the bigger picture of my life, and also parents. Because often parents, as much as we love our children, but you say you've got 3 children, I've got 2 boys, they're incredibly different. I would never want to say to them ever, you can't do, or that wouldn't be, or don't go down that career path, because there's so many different options. But sometimes when we aren't aware, we do make those mistakes and those judgments around, you got that grade, so that must mean, and probably more from our own experiences as children and students growing up.
No, I totally agree. And we've spoken in the past about our children being very engaged with sport and that side of things. And one of the things I find as I'm going around a lot of countries is about those people that are those students that are really passionate about something that may not be the normal school day. It's kind of like, how does education kind of support them? And I was talking with a school in Morocco, where they've got, football mad country, basketball, etc. They've got a lot of really top-end sport athletes that the school system, they're going, it's not really meeting these here. And what we do is, you look at the American college system. It's wonderful for scholarships, wonderful for where people can go, into that side of things. And we're able to kind of work with those schools, kind of like go, well, this is how you can use our courseware, whether it be, in school, to really go, right, this is how you're going to get your dual diploma alongside what you're doing in your school. To gain access to American colleges where you can get scholarships to follow your sport through. And it's really powerful, that being able to have that kind of online school, being able to support pupils who maybe they're looking around their school and going, do you know what? I'm different to everyone else here because I want to be a star tennis player. And we're now going, right, we'll work with you. If you've got those pupils, let's not say, oh, sorry, you can't do it because you don't fit. We're going, no, that there are alternative ways to look at it. We can support those pathways for those people to really follow their passion, the education follow them and their passion, so that if they need a fallback plan, their education is kept up. Or if they don't need it, they look and go, right, now they're curious. And that's where like I said, it's that very much, whatever we do, it's about meeting those pupils where they are, really driving that kind of progress to make sure that they achieve their potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like almost at every age and stage, you're able to help support a student with the learning paths, whether it be from the standardized assessment and then actually kind of baselining and working out where gaps of knowledge are, all the way through to this ability to be flexible and learn anywhere.
Yeah, totally. And that's where, starting with the diagnostic at the right stage for those pupils, really being able to give them those personalized learning paths, then being able to go, right, what are your interests? How can we really support you? Focus on your interests, and then allow them to explore where those interests can take them. Really does make it that, the world's your oyster. And the fact that we can do that, because if we start with the children early and give them those building blocks, like you say, the fundamentals, English, maths, language arts, if we can really give them the fundamentals there, then that's going to make, you said the building blocks are going to be there, the foundation's going to be there. And that's when you see that rapid progress, so that when they start identifying the opportunities, they're so much further forward. So for us, we're there for the whole journey of the pupil from when they start their education, even to when they're into their careers. We see it not just a K-12, the education. It is very much that kind of a, how do we really set up your life for your future, for your future family, or whatever it is you want to do? And that's where we want to get to that impacting 10 million pupils.
That is amazing. It has been fantastic to speak to you today, and apologies. And it's been amazing. You are one of our partners for the EdTech podcast as well. We very much appreciate that. And we will be sharing all the information around how you can get in touch with Edmentum and the team, and how you can find out more about the things that Connor has been mentioning today around all of the different platforms and how they can help meet your students where they are. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This episode is supported by Edmentum. Edmentum works with schools, trusts, governments, and education organisations to design inclusive, accessible, and sustainable digital systems, moving strategy from paper into practice in ways that genuinely work for people. From digital audits and 360 reviews to coaching for digital and AI leaders, governance frameworks, and safeguarding first implementation, Edmentum helps organisations build and refine digital ecosystems that are secure, purposeful, and future-ready. Not only that, but they're Canva trainer partners too, supporting schools to embed creativity, accessibility, and consistency at scale, not as add-ons, but part of everyday life and inclusive practice. So if you're navigating AI readiness, inspection pressure, staff capability, or simply looking into bringing clarity in an increasingly complex digital landscape, Edmentum is here to support that journey. Explore their work at edmentum.com, empowering change and meeting you where you are. So, Will, welcome to the EdTech podcast at Bett 2026. We were just chatting offline. This is your first Bett ever, which is very exciting. Please tell our international audience and listeners who you are, what you do, and about your experience at Bett so far.
Oh, it's great to be on, and thank you for having me. So I'm Will. I was previously a primary school teacher, and now moved on to being a co-founder of a company called RedPen AI. We're an AI formative assessment platform that can transcribe handwritten work, provide personalised feedback, and track progress over time to give insights to teachers.
That is amazing. You make it sound really simple, like it's just as easy as that. What was the beginning of that story and that journey for yourself and your co-founder?
Well, I was a supply teacher for most of the start of my teaching career. And when you go to lots of different schools over a few different years, you see, different teachers changing, you see the kind of pressures that they're under. And I started being offered long-term contracts and my permanent contracts, and they were all when they were off with stress and other reasons like that. So that was a kind of like a penny drop moment for me, realised that there was an issue. So yeah, went on to have my permanent role and then felt the workload pressures myself. And then turned to AI as kind of a solution to go with my own workloads. Realised that there wasn't really like a bridge between handwritten and digital kind of workflows. Any of the solutions were online, which means you needed one-to-one devices to be working on your students. And yeah, that was kind of the light bulb moment for me.
That's amazing. And as you say, like one-to-one solutions aren't able to be in every single school around the world. We know that. We've got such an equity divide across devices, but equally, there is a real need and still a desire to have handwriting and to be able to make sure students can write. And so, it's not going away anytime soon, but actually that bigger part of that, which is the stress and the extra workload for teachers. So tell us a little bit about how does RedPen help to alleviate that part of things?
So it's as simple as uploading a picture. So like I said, you do not need one-to-one devices. One device works absolutely fine. That's then uploaded to our platform. We have, without getting too technical, lots of AI agents that are specially trained on curriculum skills. So then we prioritize the most urgent gaps in understanding, provide feedback that targets them gaps, and then tracks all the progress across all the curriculum skills on a nice visual dashboard.
Amazing. So you just said about the most specific ones. So it kind of pulls out a few of them, or is it, how does it kind of work that out? And I guess, is that because it's just then easier to focus on a couple of things as opposed to every single problem?
Yeah, so it focuses on like foundational skills first. So if there's an urgent gap in capital letters, punctuation, that sort of thing, it will target that. And it's related to kind of the age-related expectations. So it is all human in the loop. They are just suggestions. They are there for the teacher to edit and export. And, they are still in control of all the outputs. And yeah, it's really there to be printed off and they can reduce their workloads and still be in control of the outputs of the AI.
Amazing. So you mentioned as well the dashboard. So what does that look like? So is my whole class, or do I have to populate that myself? How does that work?
So yeah, you have your class list on there and you can set your school's assessment criteria on there, and then we surface evidence and insights that supports that they've achieved that objective, or maybe they are lacking and need more evidence in that area. So this supports adaptive teaching for teachers, which is quite a trend now in education to be able to do. And the idea is they can log in, they got a live stream of data, they can see exactly where their students are performing, them gaps of understanding, and then they can inform their lesson planning going forward.
Which is brilliant, because I think that is one of the biggest parts of it, is that sometimes if you don't get round to doing your marking, maybe on the rotation that we all try to aspire to at the beginning of the year, actually you're missing those things that they are not understanding, or the gaps in knowledge. And if it's something that's continuing to happen across the board, actually then it's something to go back and teach, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's often the marking that kind of takes a hit when your workload's getting heavy. And, if you've got 30 students across all the class and you've got all that data to remember, and if anything, the workload issue could be impacting students in the long term. So if the teachers are burnt out, if they're struggling with their workload, then they are going to be unable to give that high quality feedback that is demanded from them these days. And I think there's a lot of uncaptured data within classrooms. So teachers are expected to do self-reflection, kind of peer assessment and self-assessment. If all of that could be stored in kind of one central place and then be used to inform their professional judgment, I think it really could have a positive impact on students.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh, there's a little robot walking past us. Sorry, that was very distracting. Part of me thought it was an actual child. Sorry, apologies. So when we think about that and that kind of ease of workload, and that's amazing, that's brilliant to be able to do. So what sorts of feedback have you had from teachers?
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag. So it's been very positive, and, workload reduction has been there, and the teachers are starting to realize kind of the impact of AI past workloads and it's kind of the potential that they've got. But of course, there is some skepticism. There's a kind of a moral debate whether it might be replacing teachers. And for me, I think AI should be used as kind of like a second pair of eyes. So I think any tools that do replace your professional judgment, they shouldn't really be used. But, if you're gathering insights to help you make that better decision to then impact your students, I think that could be really positive for education.
Amazing. And what's the next sort of year looking like for you for 2026? So you've obviously come to Bett, you've had a little wander around, you've been here all week, haven't you? What sorts of things have inspired you? What have you seen? What's next on the list?
Yeah, it's great to be at Bett and kind of see all the other solutions that are out there. For us, we know we're still an early stage startup. We're piloted in 25 schools and we've risen to 100 active users. So it's all about now just gathering data from real teachers, real users, and how to really align our product to the teachers' needs. And then from there, hopefully we scale and we can really help support teachers in the classroom.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today, Will. It's been brilliant to hear about it. And I'm sure that every educator listening to this will be thinking, that sounds like a tool that I need to have in my classroom. So hopefully they'll be able to get in touch with you from the information in our show notes. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
So we are here, day 3 at Bett 2026 with the EdTech podcast. And we have the big purple Kahoot here. It's so exciting. How are you?
Well, thank you. We're so excited to be here at Bett again. Our presence has been growing over the years and we have a big presence here and we've been just jam-packed in our stand. So we're thrilled.
Amazing. So tell our international audience a little bit about you, a little bit about Kahoot and what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, sure. I'm Liz Crawford. I'm the head of global education at Kahoot, and I've been with the company about a year, but I've been in tech over 20 years and just really excited to be thinking about such a wonderful brand that teachers and students love, and how do we evolve the platform into be something that's much more than just quizzes. So that's what we're here to talk about at Bett. I think people know us as that quiz tool, but we've really transformed over the last few years into a pretty comprehensive learning and engagement platform that can be deployed at scale across schools, trusts, districts, and higher education as well. So we're here to communicate that message and really spread the word that we're more than quiz now.
Which is amazing, because I think people found, I know myself, when I was back in the classroom, Kahoot was easy to use.
Yes.
And that was one of the joys of it. It didn't feel like an overcomplicated tech platform that I had to, put numerous amounts of information into before I could even get it to work. Tell us a little bit about how that growth has happened in terms of that simplicity. I hope it will be across all those new platforms and new bits that you're kind of pulling out from Kahoot.
Yes, that's definitely a focus to make the user experience as user-friendly as it has always been, and build more tools that help educators be more efficient. So one of the ways we've done that is we've actually, we have something called the AI generator, the Kahoot AI generator. So we've built in tools that help teachers just very easily using the AI tool create Kahoots. And they can do that by entering a prompt or a topic. They can upload slides and sync it. They can upload traditional PDF instructional tools, and then the AI generator will create the Kahoot for them. We'll help them like optimize their quizzes. We have over 13 different question types now. So it's not just multiple choice, but we have all these other options as well. And we've just really built in tools to enable teachers to do that really well. And then one other piece is on just becoming more valuable for instruction is we have presentation mode. So we have our classic mode, which people really know, the gamified experience, but we've had a couple of versions of that would enable instructors to deliver slides and questions together and have audience engagement, have feedback, Q&A. And we also have a version called accuracy mode that's been really popular that actually is just points are awarded just on students answering correctly. So enabling them to take time and not rush to be on the podium, not rush to answer first, but really for critical thinking and like slowing down and just, really focusing on the right answer.
And that's amazing. I think there's two things that I feel like really need to be drawn out on there is one, you just said that you can put your content in there and it will give you a quiz from it. Yeah. Which for those people who have long-standing decks that they know are tried and tested, they have that concrete pedagogy, they know exactly what they need to do. It just teaches it in the right way. Amazing to be able to put that in and then get a quiz that is relevant, linked without thinking about what does that question really mean? Are my learners going to understand it? Is that accurate? That's amazing. What a game changer.
Yeah, it is a game changer. And of course, then the teacher still has the ability to go in and edit those things at the AI creator. So it's not, it's editable so they can go in and make sure they double check the answers are correct or add different, different answer options or edit the question if they want. But we really think about the teacher's time and how to make their lives easier. And of course, like how to make the instructional materials even more engaging for students. So that's really the purpose of that.
That's brilliant. I think that really is what we want from AI, right? Is for it to be saving us time, doing things that just make everything a little bit easier. But again, with that human processing, coming back to that. And I think that's brilliant. And the other thing is that processing time. Often we were seeing Kahoots across school, like everybody was Kahooting. And for some children, it became a little bit overwhelming. And for some teachers, it maybe was not quite always getting what they needed out of it. So that ability to change that and to self-pace that and to have that in the quizzing methodology, but in very different formats, that must be something people have really appreciated.
Yes, definitely. We also have a tool that's, we see it used a lot in higher education, but it's called lecture mode. So it's, again, importing slides, creating questions, really trying to drive, interaction with the audience and with the students and get them engaged into the lesson. And they can be used in K-12 as well, but we see very popular in higher ed. It has a Q&A feature. You can add reactions. And so you can just really get, students really involved in the lesson as well.
Fantastic. And just to take a step back, I know obviously you've mentioned you've been with Kahoot for a year, but what's the background of Kahoot? What was it? Why was it created? How did it come about?
Yes, it actually comes from higher education. It's been around about 12 years. It was actually founded and developed in Norway. That's where our headquarters is still currently, Oslo, Norway. We have offices around the world now. We have a U.S. office, Paris, Copenhagen, Barcelona. We have people in Singapore, Japan, all over the world now. It came out of higher ed. It came out of the idea that like in these big lecture halls or these big lecture classes that instructors wanted to engage students in the learning. It has evolved from there. I think people think of it now as a K-12 tool, but we all are also still used in 97% of higher education of the top 500 universities. And we're growing in that area. Yeah, it's really evolved in the last few years for sure.
That's fantastic. You learn something new every day, don't you? I had no idea that you were from Oslo, and I had no idea that it was higher education. That's really interesting. And I guess it's that filter down. It has had such an impact in K through 12, which is probably more why we hear about it. We talk a lot as K through 12 teachers and educators, probably more than maybe the higher education teachers do around things. And so kind of what are the next steps then for Kahoot? What does 2026 look like when you're kind of thinking around the next steps, engaging people, trying to build that, immerse people within what you're doing?
So I think there's a couple of things. We're seeing a lot of growth around the world in some really interesting markets across EMEA and Southeast Asia. We're seeing growth in Japan. We're still seeing growth in the United States as well. And so we'll continue to focus to serve those markets, localize and support in those markets as well. I think one of the things we're still working on is like making just general awareness about Kahoot as a a site license or a school trust district higher education product that can be rolled out at scale using enterprise features and things that Kahoot hasn't had before, like single sign-on and LMS integrations and things like that really tie it back to all the platforms that educators use in education. And so we want to just make the world more aware of all of those pieces, and that Kahoot is an instructional tool. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of as a Kahoot employee is just the amount of research we have that backs the product. And people don't realize that, but we have almost 200 independent research studies that have been done about Kahoot and its impact on learning. And that research shows that it makes a difference on engagement, motivation, class participation, and most importantly, student outcomes. It shows that it increases students' grades by a letter grade on an average test. And so we want to tell the world more about that research piece as well, because we are an ed tech that's like completely backed and grounded in research. And I think that's really important as schools and districts and teachers are making decisions about how to spend their money, that they're spending it on tools that deliver outcomes.
And that's fantastic. I say that because having worked at a government level, oftentimes what we're asking edtech companies for is proof of concept.
Right.
And that is so helpful, the fact that you've gone to this, to the point of saying, and this is why. It's not just us saying it. It's not just the kids saying, oh, we had a really fun lesson. It's actually proven within data and research that this is having an impact. And that's quite a significant impact as well.
Yes. And the amazing thing about it is this isn't commissioned research by Kahoot. These are actually just independent professors and organizations out there doing this research themselves. And so, it's been amazing. We were also actually just awarded like the number one out of 1,000 EdTech products from the global EdTech evidence list. That just came out this past year. And Kahoot was number one and rated gold across 4 of 5 categories. And we were the only one to do that. So we're really proud of that piece of our work too.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And that, I mean, there are so many edtech companies about, but it is that ability to be grounded in research and to have that, understanding and awareness and iteration of your product to say, what can we do next? What can we do next? And that's clearly kind of where your trajectory is heading to. Yeah. So you mentioned regionalization and working with different countries. What does that look like for Kahoot? How is it different in different places?
I mean, I think there's a kind of a couple of approaches. So first and foremost, our platform is localized in over 20 languages, and we'll continue to think about what languages should be coming next. We have a couple that we have in mind. And then I mentioned these offices we have around the world and the teams that we're bringing on to drive growth. So we've brought on growth directors in the UK and Ireland. We've brought them on in Singapore for Southeast Asia. We have a team in Australia. We have someone in Japan. So we're continuing to expand how we support locally. And localization isn't just the language, right? It's just all the nuances of the culture and things like that. So we're continuing just to be really focused on how we communicate with our customers in a way that makes sense and resonates with the local culture and language.
Yeah, which again, it's a conversation we've been having today actually around that nod to, we understand you, we appreciate you, and we want to help you.
Yes.
As opposed to, oh, you'll be just like everyone else. Here you go, here's the product.
Right. Yes. We want to make sure that, and we're growing in this area. We're evolving, and obviously so many languages and our tools can localize things, but making sure that the localization even is accurate. So we have our teams take a look at that before communications go out.
And that's fantastic. Tell me about your stand. I keep seeing people wearing purple capes.
Oh, yes, our stand. I'm so thrilled about it. It's our biggest presence ever at this Bett. So we've been growing our presence over time, and we went really big this year. Feels like, I don't know, I just have a really good feeling. It feels like this is the year where we're going to the next level. And I think our stand really reflects that. We have sessions going on throughout the day. We have a kids area where kids can be playing Kahoots in our booth and getting purple capes, superhero capes. And then we have our Clever, which is what part of the Kahoot group, is on the other side of our stand. And so we just have a huge presence. We have been so packed in the stand, and we have, lines for demos, and people always love our socks, so that's always a draw. But hopefully we're able to communicate that message as well. And I do feel like we're getting that message out. Our theater sessions have been full the whole week, and starting first thing in the morning. So I'm really encouraged by all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's that hands-on element, isn't it? It's really important at things like this. It's so easy to be overwhelmed and see so many different things, but actually to see it in practice, to see it when you're there, utilizing it, seeing how it can work, talking to the experts, hearing from people. And actually, sometimes I'm assuming hearing from the kids when they're so excited and telling people that they've got their cape and that this is what they did and things like that is really impactful.
Yeah. I mean, the students are the best source of feedback, and teachers too. We love hearing from teachers and higher ed and instructors and professors about like how they're using it. What are those real use cases? Actually, I love when I talk to instructors and teachers, because then I learn so much from them.
Yeah.
And we're able to take that back to how we think about the product and share that with our product team. And we have our product team here in the booth too. So they're obviously learning and hearing from educators too.
Which is vital, really, isn't it? And I wonder whether, so you mentioned earlier about the fact that obviously you have different levels of licenses. There's obviously the free teacher option. However, when you go up to something like the enterprise license, I'm assuming that's where we really benefit from things like the ability to single sign on and then gather that data and maybe export it back to our learning management, see that whole holistic approach to whether a child is getting better, increasing, and how much impact that session is having. And that's really probably where the data is coming from as well, the research.
Yes. Sort of how it works. We aren't collecting student data. So I think from that standpoint, that really makes us unique too. We want to make sure that we're collecting as little personal information about students as possible. But we do have reporting. So it will show the teacher what a Kahoot session looks like, what questions that were missed, maybe giving the educator an opportunity to go back and like reteach particular topics that maybe a lot of students have missed. I mean, we have the reporting piece, but again, we're not trying to collect any more data from students. And so I actually think that kind of sets us apart, and teachers appreciate that too. But as it relates to single sign-on, we do enable single sign-on. We enable it through Clever as well as Apple, Google, Microsoft. And then we have integrations with all the major learning management systems through LTI 1.3. So if an LMS is using 1.3, we can very easily integrate with that. It enables teachers then to assign a lesson within the LMS. The students can play the Kahoot within the LMS, and then it sends the grade pass back. It passes back to the LMS. So yeah, we want to be on all the platforms that educators are using and not creating a cumbersome workflow.
Absolutely. And I think the reason I kind of touch upon that is because a reflection of when I was working across a range of schools, a group of schools in the Middle East, the biggest thing was the inconsistency of people in downloading and uploading information. That is when it just moves across for us, when we utilize those facilities of technology. And so having something like that embedded in Kahoot makes it more impactful for the teacher to be able to reflect upon whether that was useful, whether it was worthwhile, whether students have learned. Ultimately, when we're looking especially at quizzing, it's, okay, what was the misconception? What have they not learned? Like, where are my gaps? Where can I go back to? And that's really vital, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And our reporting does show that. We even have a button, so to speak, within the report that says, generate a new quiz based on the difficult questions. So can help, again, educator efficiency, really providing value and making teachers' lives easier, can automatically create a set of questions based on the ones that were maybe missed the most. And the reporting piece is just, again, another, with the automatic rating and the reporting, just another way to make teachers' lives easier.
That is amazing. So with big accolades and lots of things going on, what does the next kind of 12 months look like for you guys? Is there anything really exciting happening? Where are you off to in the world next? How is it all looking?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, we're going to continue to innovate on the platform. We're going to continue to develop tools and announce tools around educator efficiency. We've just launched AI experiences on our platform, which are great shortcut templates for teachers to just launch and get started. We're going to continue just to optimize for enterprise readiness, for scale. And we have events happening all over the world now that we have these global teams everywhere. So we have a pretty busy events schedule, and I know everyone's off from Bett and on to the next event. We are doing events in Asia, actually on all the continents, in Asia and EMEA and US, of course. And yeah, so we got a busy year ahead of us. But I feel like the energy that we're taking away from Bett is really exciting, and just I think I mentioned this earlier. It just feels like the next phase.
Absolutely. It's a really great springboard in January to kind of go, right, this is what the year's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be really positive and it's going to be amazing. So it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining us at the EdTech Podcast.
For having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it from us here at Bett. Thank you for joining this conversation and being part of the wider dialogue between education and technology. You'll find more Bett conversations and episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll be back very soon with more stories from the show floor.